First up, we have Chase Merrill.
Hello, my name is Chase Merrill, and I'm a student at the University of Oregon and a Justice for Black Girls, Black Girlhood Studies Fellow. I'm beyond excited to get us started off today. I'm here because I wholeheartedly believe that Black girls' stories deserve to be highlighted, researched, and funded. As a Black girl myself, I have pledged to further Black girl liberation by researching the struggles of our community and, more importantly, demonstrating the joy of Blackness when we have the space to fully embrace our identities. Black girls aren't asked to lead. It's expected and demanded of us by a society built on the exploitation of our intelligence, bodies, and potential. When Black girls are leaders, it's not appreciated. Instead, it's a mandatory aspect of our identity. The leadership I'm talking about is not one experienced by politicians or CEOs. It's an all consuming practice that forces Black girls into their places and profits off our labor. It's the Black girl in elementary school who's given extra jobs in class that her peers aren't. It's the Black girl in high school who single handedly runs her Black student union because no one else will. The Black girl who excels in her sport and is typecasted as only an athlete. It's the young Black girl professional who's forced to plan the office party because she would do it just so well. It's a distorted idea of leadership that it's a distorted idea of leadership that exploits our labor so that when we can finally be leaders in the traditional sense, we've lost all passion or energy, keeping us in a perpetual system where society thrives off Black labor and our community doesn't see the rewards. It's the burden of leadership without the glory or recognition our community deserves. My research project, Not Your Mule, Black Girlhood Identity and the Burden of Leadership, explores the effects of the strong Black girl trope and other stereotypes that work to reinforce the expectations of Black girl leadership. This research aims to analyze the experiences of Black girls at the intersection of race, gender, and leadership, with a particular focus on Black girls who've grown up in predominantly white areas. I draw my inspiration from personal experience with the burden of leadership and Zora Neale Hurston's metaphor of the mule of the world when their eyes are watching God, allowing me to investigate how Black girls are often burdened when placed in leadership positions as representatives of both their race and gender. My research aims to highlight the disproportionate leadership tasks placed on Black girls within middle school, high school, and college, as well as the lasting impacts of burnout. By weaving personal stories, history, and feminist ethnographic semi structured interviews, this project redefines leadership by centering the perspectives of Black girlhood, showing that our success is not in spite of our identity, but because of it. This research has been incredibly healing, as I found I'm not the only one who's experienced the burden of leadership. What is needed now more than ever is more Black women in leadership positions, not women who carry the burden of leading without the glory, but true leadership with Black women and girls at the center. If my research resonates with you, please take a moment to fill out this interest survey about participating. This is for all Black women and girls who have stories to share regarding Black girl leadership. And if you can't scan the QR code now but would still love to share your story, please contact me and be happy to schedule an interview that way. At some point in our lives, all Black girls have been dealt the burden of leadership. We need to continue researching and understanding the way this burden affects young girls, and by doing so, we shed light on the unfair leadership responsibilities placed on us. We need to keep talking about it so that the next generation of young Black girls know they do not have to shoulder this burden. They can redefine Black leadership in a way that prevents burnout and the need for resilience. Instead, Black girls' perspectives and identities will be honored and valued within leadership positions because our voices matter and we have a lot to say. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Anijah Hughley, a second-year political science and sociology double major on the pre-law track, and I attend Spelman College. My research is titled Conditional Unity, the Effect of Predominantly Black Spaces on Queer Black Girls. And my research is rooted in my personal experiences as a pansexual Black girl, so I must begin with affirmations to my younger self. To little Anijah, I'm sorry you were made to think that your love is wrong. The way you love is beautiful. Love is your birthright, not because you earned it, but because you exist. Your light is my life, and who you love is up to you. Predominantly Black spaces can also contribute to the marginalization of Black girls. Institutions such as Black churches, families, schools, and neighborhoods often uphold traditionalist values rooted in white supremacy. This research explores how queer Black girls navigate our identities within these spaces that reinforce heteronormative and patriarchal norms. Failing to acknowledge these unique experiences sustains dangerous environments for our physical and mental safety. This study critically examines what true inclusion within Black institutions entails and affirms the necessity of centering queer Black girlhood in conversations about liberation and representation. Black girls deserve to be loved out loud, and to love out loud. My research investigates three main questions. How do queer Black girls in predominantly Black spaces navigate their sexuality within and against heteronormative frameworks? How do constructions of gender and gender roles impact the experiences of queer Black girls in these spaces? And how do social interactions, relationships, friendships, and family connections manifest as a result of these identities? I find that queer Black girls often navigate a tension between cultural belonging and authenticity. While Black spaces affirm our racial identity, they frequently marginalize our sexualities. Many describe strategies such as code switching, selective disclosure, or performing femininity to maintain safety and social acceptance. Gender expectations in communities, particularly the emphasis on hyperfemininity and traditional roles, shape how queer Black girls express themselves and are perceived, often forcing negotiation or resistance. Participants experience mixed levels of support. Peer networks tend to be affirming, while family and religious spaces remain sources of silence or conditional acceptance. These findings reveal how spaces meant to empower us can simultaneously produce internal oppression that harm those who exist outside of heteronormative and patriarchal norms. Through a Black feminist and intersectional lens and autoethnography, this research will highlight how notions of Black unity are sometimes conditional along lines of gender and sexuality. My closing call to action is this: liberation cannot be selective. When we speak of protecting and uplifting Black girls, this must include all Black girls, queer, trans, gender nonconforming, and questioning. To love Black girls fully is to honor every part of who we are, even the parts that make others uncomfortable. We cannot rely on outsiders to care for us, so we must embrace community in the right way. Through this work, I hope to shift how Black communities, especially our families, schools, and churches, understand love, safety, and belonging. Queer Black girls should never have to shrink or silence themselves to feel embraced by our people. My vision is for a world where Black institutions become sites of healing rather than harm, where affirmations is not conditional, and where our fullness is celebrated rather than tolerated. Ultimately, I want this research to be both a mirror and a mirror reflecting the realities queer Black girls face, and a map guiding us toward communities where our love, joy, and existence are seen as sacred. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Sarah Berhe Abraha, and I'm a senior at Pomona College studying Media and Africana Studies. So, reflecting on the knowledge that I've always had within myself, younger me taught me to listen to myself, to always push for what I want, to be curious, to play, to love, and to believe in better. And this work is meaningful for me because as I continuously come back home to myself, I realize how right I was to do all those things. And I believe that all Black girls should be able to trust their inner voice and use it both in service of themselves and the world that they hope to see. So, my research is exploring the formation of self trust in Black girls and how we can cultivate more of it in service of Black girls' empowerment, well being, and liberation. I use Black feminist decolonial frameworks and an Afrocentric research methodology as I conducted a literature review and secondary data analysis to make sense of existing information through a different lens. On the screen, you can see the woman whose work guided me and the imagery for quilombismo, which is a decolonial Afro-Brazilian political alternative, which also guided my insights. One of the strongest weapons of colonization is to disconnect us from ourselves, and Black girls are often taught to question our instincts, particularly when it makes us less exploitable, less expendable, and less of service to others at the cost of our well being and wishes. Lack of self trust leaves you susceptible to manipulation and exploitation, and less capable of advocating for yourself in the face of predatory and negligent systems, which Black girls are often disparately impacted by. When we look at how people develop self trust, our ability to trust ourselves coincides with our ability to make mistakes and grow from them. But Black girls are often held to the expectations of adults and punished accordingly, which teaches us that there is no way we can trust ourselves because the very act of being human writes you off. Additionally, white supremacy culture and patriarchy thrive off of discrediting Black girls' narratives, but self trust asks that we see ourselves as credible witnesses to the world. We have to see ourselves as trustworthy beings with legitimate ideas about how to navigate the world in order to navigate the world in ways that we like. Self-trust is also a necessary condition for so much of how we get free. Genuine autonomy, constructing a life that aligns with your deepest desires, decolonial thinking, which requires trusting yourself enough to shift towards what feels right as a legitimate source of guidance. Additionally, we learn who we are through other people. Self-trust is cultivated relationally, and it translates into an internal dialogue that can be self-affirming. And so we have a responsibility to teach Black girls that they can trust themselves. And from personal experience, I've found that youth participatory action research does this well, since the focus is empowering youth as the experts on their own lives. So YPAR groups can offer insight on practices that we can implement in other spaces. And in any space where you have influence on Black girls, whether as an educator, in media, as an auntie, my call to action is that you meet the Black girls in your lives with a few things. Encourage curiosity and ask questions that invite self-reflection, affirm their strengths, competencies, and abilities back to them, create soft landing spaces, meaning establish mistakes as lesson learning and an opportunity to reflect and grow rather than as a deficit. Affirm and behave in ways that enforce the idea that you are your best guide, building meditation into Black girls' routines, creating access to media that affirms our experiences and holds them with care. The best way that you can support is by guiding people back to the awareness and power within them. I also think of redefining success as necessary to reclaiming our lives. So when the Black girls in your lives are making decisions or setting goals, consider satisfaction, pleasure, values, and how different choices feel as legitimate sources of knowledge, and affirm that to them. Alice Walker once said that every time we tell the truth, we give birth to ourselves. So I really hope to get across that the self-trust that we can have gives us what we need to give birth to the worlds and ways of living that we hope to see. Thank you.
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Michaela Kessie, and my research is titled Somewhere to Feel Safe, Safety and Radical Healing Within Black Women's Campus Communities. So I used my school, NYU, and our organization of Black women as a case study for my research. So my research is grounded in my commitment to Black girl liberation and a promise to my younger self and to the girls coming after me that our safety and our joy and our stories matter. My research is also dedicated to the organization of Black women at NYU, my sisterhood, and my loves. They've taught me that liberation begins in the small moments of laughter and care and truth-telling. And this is for every Black girl finding her voice, carving her space, and continuing to choose herself above everything else. So in a message to NYU's Organization of Black Women, one Black girl wrote, "OBW gives me somewhere to feel safe." And I thought that this line captures a deeper truth that for many Black girls at predominantly white institutions, safety and community is not a given. It's something that has to be sought out, fought for, and cultivated. So in the current political climate where the loss of affirmative action has led to a visible decrease in Black students on campuses nationwide, and in the face of recent racist anti-Black threats to Black students on several college campuses, NYU included, understanding the role of Black girl community spaces I thought was more critical than ever. So research on Black girl spaces has shown that Black girls have long created their own spaces to express themselves, to resist harmful frameworks, and to cultivate joy together. And radical healing framework suggests that healing is a collective process that happens in community with freedom and love and critical consciousness. So it's clear that Black girls need spaces that honor their specific intersectional identities and lived experiences beyond Black spaces that often just center Black men's perspectives or multicultural spaces that frequently overlook us while actually relying on our labor and leadership. So my research question then became, do Black women students at NYU create, experience, and sustain safety, healing, and community through student-led intersectional organizations? So through semi-structured interviews with the OBW president, survey responses, and a thematic analysis of event session where Black girls were invited to discuss their feelings of safety and belonging on campus, several themes emerged. The first being that students described a strong sense of institutional threat, feeling that the university and broader campus community actually does not prioritize their safety or intersectional experiences, but this was highly contrasted with their expression of a deep sense of interpersonal safety that they felt within OBW in particular, and they described it as a space where they felt seen and cared for and free to be themselves without judgment. And one participant shared that the OBW Instagram page has become their primary source of information about our campus because they trust OBW to center their needs. And then another described that the first time that they walked into an OBW meeting, they felt like they could finally breathe for the first time because they didn't have to be anyone other than themselves. And then another insight was that OBW serves as a space of radical healing because it promotes a sense of authenticity and freedom and psychological safety because it is by and strictly for Black women. So I thought that these findings reveal that Black women's campus organizations are not just extracurricular clubs, they are essential survival spaces that nurture healing, authenticity, and safety when institutions fail to do so. And that these communities serve not only as support networks, but also as acts of resistance. So for Black girls nationally, we must shift the conditions so that the burden of creating safe spaces like OBW does not fully fall solely on the most vulnerable students like Black women. We need institutional support and more resources. So my hope is that this work affirms the brilliance of Black girls who continue to make spaces where they can feel safe and seen and free, even when institutions in the world tell them otherwise. Thank you.
Hi, y'all. I'm Shanice Hanley, a junior at U Chicago and a 2025 JBG Black Girlhood Fellow. And my research project is The South Got Something to Say, Reclaiming Black Girls' Sexual Legacies and Desire. To open, my pledge to Black girl liberation is grounded in my upbringing in the South, Memphis, Tennessee specifically. Younger me grew up in the South that encouraged me to fully be myself, even as others tried to define who I am. I grew up with Black girls and Black women who inspire me to embrace who I am and what brings me joy. So this project is dedicated to younger me and every Black girl who is resisting the stories placed on them and motivated to write their own stories. To start, I bring a quote by Brittany Cooper that says, "There is no justice for Black women and girls without pleasure." This quote tackles the heart of my research. I wanted to understand how Southern Black girls make meaning of pleasure, desire, and sexuality in their lives. Specifically, I wanted to shift the focus of sexuality from an oppressive lens to a more liberatory one. I interviewed several college-age Black girls who are from the South on their upbringing in the region and their own definitions of sexuality through their lived experiences. Most importantly, I asked what gave them pleasure in their everyday lives. My key findings found that the South as a region played a large role in how Black girls understood sexuality due to the religious landscape, also nicknamed the Bible Belt. Many of the girls I interviewed discussed the ways that religion, specifically Christianity, played a role in how they understood sexuality and pleasure and how others explained it to them. They discussed the ways that religion shaped their hometowns and created a view of sexuality as traditional and or heteronormative. Often, this was not receptive to the various ways that Black girls were experiencing pleasure in their everyday lives. Additionally, family influenced a lot of the understanding around pleasure through conversations and subliminal messages. Through conversations around sex, relationships, and more, girls felt their families were imposing certain messages onto them. And then finally, Black girls came to understand sexuality and pleasure as something that is theirs to construct for their own selves. They embrace their sexuality through romantic relationships, prioritizing what makes them happy, and denying the societal barriers put upon them. Quoting one of the girls I interviewed, she says, "Pleasure begins with yourself." And I find this really inspiring as we think about what does it mean to love oneself and to find what makes you happy, to start with yourself and not looking to other people to do that. So my call to action is that Black girls find pleasure and desire within themselves, not needing to seek it from others. As lovers of Black girls, we must embrace and love all Black girls for the ways that they wish to embody pleasure and desire in their lives by giving them the tools and space to understand sexuality in safe ways, rather than shaming them from embracing it in the first place. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Ahava McClurkin, and I am a student at Washington University in St. Louis. And the title of my research is Black Girls Cry, Social Stigmas and Negligent Attitudes Toward Our Mental Health. So going into this research, I really wanted to center Black girls and their experiences with mental health in a world where that doesn't really happen. And so to start us off, I really want to ground us with some facts. So firstly, Black girls are disproportionately impacted by criminalization, adultification, sexualization, misogynoir, and other similar experiences. And so as I was explained in this presentation, these factors are also relevant to Black girls' mental health, especially the ways that they get access to and are cared for. And then secondly, Black girls face many barriers to mental health support that are not researched enough. And so having this knowledge, I really wanted this work to be something where Black girls can be seen, be heard, and for this to even be a space where Black girls that have grown into women that are still searching for ways can honor their inner Black girl and all the Black girls that are around them. And so I had two main research questions. The first, what are Black girls' experiences with mental health and how might adultification, bias, and misogynoir connect to their mental health outcomes? And secondly, how can we better support Black girls' mental health needs? And so looking at some case studies, I had two main findings. The first, that Black girls' mental health is nuanced and intersectional, often shaped by experiences of racism and sexism that exacerbate poor mental health outcomes. And so this is really just to say that mental health for Black girls is not just having an attitude or being overly emotional. It's deeply rooted in larger social structures that exploit and neglect our bodies. And then secondly, Black girls are rendered invisible and emotional support is often inaccessible. And so this connects back to adultification and stereotyping of Black girls that categorize us as strong, angry, mature, and deserving of care. And so having said this, it's really important to understand that Black girls have specific needs that can only be understood when we take the time to think about our lives and experiences. And also that recognizing that Black girls may be privy to things like racial stress, emotional neglect that other groups don't really experience. And so being able to center Black girls is really important in this research. And then lastly, I want to leave us with something to think about in ways that we can engage with Black girls' mental health. So as a call to action, we should be thinking firstly, how can we create spaces for Black girls? And so with this neglect that often happens, we want to create these spaces that Black girls can be vulnerable and honest and be able to open up in ways that we currently aren't. And then secondly, we should be listening to and loving on Black girls. And so we often occupy this space that often denies us as Black girls love. And so we really want to curate this space where we can affirm and make it clear to Black girls that they are worthy and deserving of support. And then thirdly, we should be supporting Black girls as decision makers. So I don't want there to be a misconception that just because Black girls are having these negative experiences, that they cannot also be architects in their own healing in their mental health journey. And so being able to have that control over their mental health support is so important. And then lastly, educate yourself and others about stigmas against Black girls. And so this represents one of the biggest barriers that Black girls experience when getting access to mental and emotional support. And so we really want to curate this world where Black girls are able to receive care and have people be knowledgeable about their experiences and the way that they are shaped. Um, and so that was all I had, and I thank you for listening today.
Greetings, everyone. My name is Ava Wharton, and I'm a junior at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, where I study political science and media and journalism. It is both an honor and a responsibility to share my work as a proud JBG Black Girlhood Studies Fellow through my project titled Finding Home, The Consequences of Academic Censorship on the Early Identity Formation of African American Girls. For many African Americans, especially those descended from enslaved people, the seemingly simple question, where are you really from, carries profound weight. It is not simply a question of geography, but of lineage, belonging, and recognition. For those whose ancestral histories were deliberately fragmented by slavery and systemic erasure, that question often exposes an absence, one that schools have the power to either deepen or to begin to heal. So my project interrogates how contemporary patterns of academic censorship, including book bans, colorblind curricula, and restrictions on teaching about race, disrupt the identity formation of African American girls. Schools are not neutral sites of learning, we know this. They are powerful spaces where cultural memory is either affirmed or erased. For Black girls, the stories available to us in classrooms shape not only our understanding of history, but also our understanding of self. When those stories are missing, distorted, or silenced, so too is our opportunity to construct a coherent and affirming sense of identity. So my research question for this project goes as follows. How does limited access to Black authored texts and counter-narratives in K-12 curricula and educational environments shape African American girls' identity development, including our conceptualization of history, cultural pride, and sense of belonging, as well as self-concept? This question emerges from the rich intellectual tradition of Black feminist thought, which reminds us that self-definition is a radical and necessary act of resistance. For young Black girls, this act becomes even more urgent in educational contexts that deny our histories and voices. So my key findings for this project included, first of all, that curricular colorblindness and book bans fracture identity formation. The suppression of Black authored texts erases the narratives that connect Black girls to our ancestors, culture, and collective memory. This educational silencing fragments self-concept and disrupts the intergenerational transfer of knowledge essential to our cultural continuity. Conversely, access to Black authored texts and Black-centered literature restores those connections, providing mirrors through which Black girls can see ourselves as intellectuals, creators, and inheritors of rich cultural traditions. When educational spaces intentionally center Black girlhood, they function as sites of reclamation, affirming students' lived experiences, validating our ways of knowing, and making spaces for joy, resilience, and possibility. Such curricula foster a deep sense of belonging and self-worth, allowing Black girls to reimagine home not as a fixed location, but as a narrative of which we have the power to write ourselves. In the end, I believe that finding home is about more than censorship. It is about self-determination. When Black girls encounter texts that reflect our brilliance, resilience, and complexity, we are not just learning history, we are locating ourselves within it. And perhaps when asked the question, where are you really from? We can answer, not with uncertainty, but with conviction. I am from a people who have always been, who have always created, and who have always found home, even when the world tried to erase it. Thank you. And now, pivoting actually to a related topic, I want to present you all with a call to action. Over the past few years, 2 years actually, but for a while now, we've witnessed a profound shift in the landscape of higher education in the United States, one that demands our attention, our voice, and our resistance. In June 2023, the Supreme Court struck down affirmative action in higher education admissions, ending decades of precedent that allowed colleges and universities to consider race as one of the many factors in building diverse student bodies. This landmark decision not only closed the door on race-conscious admissions, it opened the door to a new era of retrenchment, one marked by attacks on DEI programs, the dismantling of multicultural centers, and an effort to silence discussions of race, history, and identity on college campuses nationwide. This ruling and the new wave of policy rollbacks that followed have made one thing clear. The same ideologies that seek to erase Black stories from classrooms are now working to erase Black spaces from our campuses. And nowhere is this struggle more visible than at my own university, the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, where the administration recently revoked the Black student movement's co-ownership of the Upendo Lounge, a space that for over 50 years has served as a cultural home for Black students. For those who may not know, Upendo means love in Swahili. The Upendo Lounge was established in 1973 by the Black student movement as the first dedicated gathering place for Black students on a predominantly white campus. It was never just a room, it was a refuge, a place of laughter and protest, of study sessions and community events, a place where generations of Black students could breathe freely, find belonging, and build community. But earlier this year, UNC administrators formally ended BSM's co-ownership of Upendo, citing compliance with new federal guidelines that challenge the legality of identity-based spaces. Under this policy, the Black student movement, who built and maintained the space for over half a century, no longer has control over its own cultural home. And this decision does not exist in isolation. It represents a broader assault, a chilling message to Black students across the nation that the very spaces designed for our safety, affirmation, and collective power are no longer welcome. From Florida to Texas and now North Carolina, we are witnessing universities reevaluate or remove cultural centers, Black and Latinx student organizations, and DEI programs that have served as lifelines for marginalized students. These actions are often framed as neutral, as efforts to ensure spaces are equal and equal access for all. But neutrality in the face of inequality is not justice, as we know. When institutions claim to be colorblind, what they truly become is history blind. They ignore the long struggle of Black students that have waged just to exist, learn, and to feel spaces never originally built for us, even though we built these spaces. And so ultimately, I do want to transition to a call to action here. This brings us to our collective challenge and our collective opportunity. If we are to protect the futures of Black students, we must also protect the spaces that sustain us. Because when a space like Upendo is stripped from the people who built it, it is not only a loss of physical territory, it is a loss of memory, of legacy, and of love. So with this being said, to meet this moment, I believe we must act and demanding our universities to establish and protect Black student cultural centers, safe spaces, and affinity groups on campus. Increase the recruitment, hiring, and retention of Black faculty, mentors, and staff. Require culturally relevant curricula that centers Black students' histories, experiences, and contributions. ensure sustained funding for Black student groups, programs, mentorships, scholarships, and leadership opportunities. And lastly, but not limited to this, empower Black students' voices in campus decision-making processes at every level. In closing, at UNC Chapel Hill, the Upendo Lounge is more than just a room. It is a living testament to love, resilience, and the power of Black community. And its struggle is not isolated. It is emblematic of what is at stake across the country. Preserving spaces like Upendo is not just about nostalgia. It is about survival. It is about ensuring that the next generation of Black students can continue to find home, to find belonging, and to find themselves on campuses that too often deny our presence. Because when we protect our spaces, we protect our stories. And when we protect our stories, we protect our future. Thank you.
Economic growth in America has always been built on whose labor is recognized and whose humanity is denied. Dr. Nell Irving Painter. This quote frames the heart of my research. Hi, my name is Katrina Green, a third year at Cornell University studying government on the pre-law track from Brooklyn, New York. I'm a former 2020 JBG ambassador and one of the amazing 2025 Black Girlhood Studies fellows, and I'm so excited to present my research today. Black girls' labor and contributions have historically built wealth for others, yet we are too often excluded from recognition, opportunity, and autonomy. My work examines how denying our humanity shapes economic independence and how reclaiming it can transform both justice and economic equity. I became drawn to this work because I know what it feels like to struggle with money. I watched my peers move through college with ease, while many Black girls like myself worked, cared for family, and stretched every dollar. That difference lit a fire in me to understand why our labor, care, and billions are so often unseen. By putting these experiences into the context of colonial and European ideas of who counts as human, I can see that this exclusion is not random. It is intentional and connected to how society builds wealth. My goal is to show that Black girlhood is full of strength and potential, and that recognizing our humanity is one of the keys to achieving true economic justice. To learn about the economic challenges of Black girls face, I interviewed some young women between the ages of 18 and 21 on my campus, asking about their daily lives and work. From these conversations, three important patterns came up. Firstly, early adultification makes it harder to be financially stable. Many girls said that they were treated like adults before they can fully care of themselves, like having to care for siblings, manage school, or earn money, but didn't have access to scholarships, fair wages, or help with money skills at all. Secondly, invisible work has invisible value. Many girls do unpaid care work that contributes to the economy, but no one recognizes it or pays them for it. Third, people often misunderstand Black girls' money skills. Many think we are careless with our money, common stereotypes, but the girls I've talked to, including myself, make smart decisions with the resources that we have. Still, things like low wages, criminalization, and lack of mentorship make it harder to become financially independent. I want everyone to leave knowing this. Black girls have and will always continue to build the foundations of this country. My research confirms this. Denying us recognition and opportunity isn't just a moral failure, it's an economic strategy that blocks our independence and undervalues our labor. And that when society honors our humanity and invests in our power and challenges exclusionary systems, we can transform not just individual lives, but entire structures. This is the vision my research asks us to see and act on, a world where Black girls are fully visible, valued, and free. If you'd like to learn more about my research or participate in whatever rest of the interviews I want to do, there's a QR code right there. And to end off, I'd like to share my Black Girl Liberation Pledge with you all. I see you, I honor you, I rise for you. I reclaim the stories that were stolen, the labor that was ignored, the joy that was denied. I hold strength in my bones, our dreams in my hands, and our power in my voice. I vow to create, to protect, to demand that Black girls be seen, be heard, be valued, and be fully free. We are architects, survivors, visionaries, and warriors that will not be erased. Thank you.
Is some Black girl out there, so many Black women out there that are watching me right now, and I want to tell you, you can do it. Anything is possible. Anything is possible. Don't allow anybody to project any stereotypes on you that tell you that you can't be here, that you're too dark, or that you're not smart enough, or that you're too dramatic, or you're too loud. You are exactly who you need to be right where you are. And I am a testimony.
It's the way that we walk, the way that we talk, our soul, our sway, our grace, our roots. It's our secret language with one another, the way we uplift each other at our best and our worst.
Like, this is my girl, my inspo since day one. Y'all already know that there's no title without Kiki. The outfit is giving. Yeah, what? This is my Virgo sister. With you, baby. Yes.
Can we please give another huge round of applause virtually to our Black Girlhood Studies Fellows? They are a collective of paid undergraduate scholars who are investing in incredible, or who are invested in work at the intersection of race, gender, and adolescence. And as you can clearly see, their work is transformative and their lives make